Have you ever wondered if we're using words like healing so much that they've lost their meaning? Maybe you've been told you need to heal from something or caught yourself diagnosing someone else, someone else's struggle with the same word without really knowing what it means. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, skeptical, or even a little frustrated by all of the self help talk, you're not alone. Today on Coach's Corner, we're pulling back the curtain on the healing buzzword. Why do we reach for it so quickly? Are we helping each other grow or just slapping a label on normal life struggles? And what if the real path to maturity and faith isn't about chasing the next trendy term, but about embracing the uncomfortable, messy process of becoming who we're really meant to be? If you're ready to challenge what you think you know and discover a deeper, more authentic way of moving forward, stick around. This conversation might just change the way you see yourself, others, and the journey we're all trying to take together. So, that being said, you know how I like to do. We always tend to start off these conversations with a few defining points, and those defining points kind of get us going in the right direction. And I don't want to put a question out there. Well, I think I will. Let me do a question first, and then we'll kind of unpack that. So, what if the very thing, and this is not a question to answer, this is a question for everybody to think about. What if the very thing you've been told you need to heal from is actually the doorway to your greatest growth? Would that motivate you to begin, not just begin, but also sustain your healing journey? Just kind of let that marinate in your head. And if you want to, you can put yes or no in the comments. Love to see what the responses are. Again, what if the very thing you've been told that you need to heal from is actually the doorway to your greatest growth? And if you knew that in that moment, would it motivate you to begin and sustain your healing journey? Now, as we dive into this, I kind of want to unpack what this word really means. Because if I was to just ask you and put you on the spot off the top of the dome, it might be a little difficult. I know it would have been for me
Hmm.
some years ago, because again, it's not say you hear it, but no one really defines it. So, what does healed mean? And I'm talking about healed from a standpoint of it being completed. And it refers to a subjective state in which an individual has undergone a transformative process of recovery and integration, leading to a sense of wholeness, meaning, and well being. It's not just solely defined by the absence of symptoms or problems, but by the person's own perspective. Remember that. By the person's own perspective. And I say this part again, by the person's own perspective of having transcended suffering, achieved personal growth, and restored balance in their life. It is a multidimensional, it is multidimensional, involving emotional, mental, relational, and sometimes spiritual aspects, and is often facilitated by supportive relationships and self acceptance. And if I was to adjust anything within this definition, I would move the word sometimes in front of spiritual and say always. Now, based upon everything that you just heard in relation to that definition, do you agree, disagree, or how would you see it differently if you didn't?
I like it. I like it. I don't know if I want to add this to the definition or just speak about it. And I think I'm just going to speak about it. One of the things that caught my attention was the part that you highlighted. Um, with the perception by yes, by the person's own perception. And the only reason I landed right here was because I hear people say, "Oh, I can tell he ain't healed by the way by his actions." So that's what I thought about when I saw that little piece right there. And I everything in me tells me that we're going to get there at some point. So I don't want to change anything about the definition. I just wanted to highlight that own perception piece right there because I do believe that. Um, I don't know what else to say about that, but I think it's going to come back around while we're having this conversation. You just gonna sip your tea?
I'm just gonna put my tea right there. And I love
Uh-huh.
that you said that, because if you guys were paying attention, we've been talking about the difference between perspective and perception for
Mhm.
quite some time. not just on Coach's Corner. We've been talking about it in Ignatium in Bible study, because I think it's an important thing for us to understand when it comes down to perspective and perception, understanding the difference between the two. So, yeah, I think that's key. But no buts. And um, that said, let's kind of jump into this first question because it is
Okay.
about the definition.
Mm,
Do you believe, in your honest opinion, most of the conversations about healing considers the holistic concept of healing and are equipped to aid in the process of the healing journey?
no. I'm right off the rip. No.
You had no
Absolutely not.
hesitation.
No hesitation, brother. Because, and I'm gonna start by saying that this is not to say that there are not people out there giving and talking the good stuff. But I think most people are busy, they have families, they have a lot going on. So a lot of times they're not really digging deep. I heard this on Coach's Corner, and then they told this person, then they told person, then by the time it got to the fourth person, it's kind of the definition of the word healing has adjusted a little bit, so no. And also to dig into that a little bit too. I think when people are on there, I think for the most part, I think people mean well. I don't necessarily know if everybody's necessarily equipped to do that. You know, Even if we talk about, oh, something going on, we go talk to Big Mama. Something going on, we go talk to the pastor. These are all good people to talk to. However, though, they may not be equipped to aid in the process of the healing journey. How often do you get to talk to your pastor and be on a journey for 3 months, 6 months, all these different things like this with Big Mama? Big Mama got other kids and other grandkids and stuff going on like that too. So not plugging coaching or counseling, but this would be a good spot for that. So I do believe that there are people on there doing some good. I think that sometimes they want to do good. And some of the reason why they may not be doing this well or may not be equipped to aid in the process of healing may be because they don't really understand what healing is, because the word subjective comes up again. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I look at Coach and we having a conversation and he looks healed, whatever went on and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he healed. But then as soon as, he hear a loud bang, he jumping around. You know what I mean? So his PTSD, I'm just saying, I don't know what Coach got. May not necessarily be healed, but in Coach's mind, hey, I'm healed from that, and I'm gonna stop right there because I was about to go a little bit further in the um being subjective and of what someone else calls healed, so that's where I'm gonna stop it right there.
You sure you want to stop there? I mean, I
Keep
don't mind
going.
you. If you
All
want
right.
to, go ahead.
Well, yeah, so that's part of it too, because I hear people saying that, I'm healed from this. Someone saying I am healed, and in their perception or perspective, whatever word, I don't know exactly what you're going to use right here. I'm just kind of roll with my
Right, right, right.
talking point. So it's like they in their mind they think that they're healed, but one of the things I've learned is sometimes you don't really know you're healed until you're tested or you put in a situation where you can prove that you're being healed. There's a lot of people out here saying that, hey, yeah, I'm healed from, my past relationship, this and this, but yet as soon as something comes up you're going back to that. The whole thing about, my first relationship, my man or my husband, my wife, they was bad with money, right? So now you move forward. Say, oh no, I ain't no, I'm gonna keep me a little piece of my money. I ain't giving to nobody. Yes, you may be healed, and there's a difference between being healed and learning from certain things in your past. But I don't know if I think sometimes when you have some tools to help people through the process of healing, sometimes sometimes people can see that this person really not healed based off their actions.
Yeah.
That's where I'm gonna stop.
No, I love all that. I like, man. I was over here smiling, man, because I like your excitement when you're talking about this. I
Mhm,
am with you. The immediate answer to this question is absolutely not.
mhm.
I believe wholeheartedly that someplace in the sphere of,
YouTube was here.
yeah, the sphere,
All of
all the
yeah.
spheres, right? YouTube,
Uh-huh.
Facebook, all of those spheres. There are people that are planted and they inject information,
Mhm,
and they don't- and don't get me started on the whole information piece, because that's a whole nother conversation that'll take me about 15 minutes to unpack. But they
mhm,
inject some data on the server. And so what ends up happening is that you'll pull that data down. And you may go look up the definition, but you really believe that the definition that you're finding is the exact definition of what it really is. And therefore you start using that term as part of your dialect, if you will. I give you a real easy one I've been talking about for the longest now: narcissism.
mm.
Right? I'm not trying to be funny, man, but I've heard that word so much that I just got tired
Yep,
of hearing it. Right.
yep.
And the funny part about it is that most of the people who use these terms, they have no backing that supports the fact that they even are skilled enough to identify it within themselves. So
Mhm,
you're calling a person a narcissist, but you don't necessarily understand the character traits to which narcissists, display.
mhm,
And then when you transition over to the healing aspect of it, because everything is all about healing these days, right? Well, if you ask a person, well, what does it look like to be healed? Well, they may say something like emotional intelligence, because
mhm.
that's like met
More
teaching.
talking points,
Right. That's like
more
med teaching in the
buzzwords.
army,
Yeah.
bro. It's like you don't really know what it is, so you'll just throw this term out there, and it will fit. So
Mhm,
emotional intelligence is one, right? Having healthy relationships. Really? Do you realize what the word relationship really mean? The word relationship by itself is healthy. It doesn't necessarily need an adjective to go in front of it, right?
mhm,
So it's like all of these things compounded together, and we just like make it a talking point. And it's like if people hear it, they flock to it like cattle. And it's almost frustrating, because if you just sit back long enough and listen, you will realize they have no earthly idea what they're talking about. But it sounds really good because of their
mhm,
tonality, because of their delivery, because of the soft music that they may have playing in the background, because of their background. They may have a couple of trees back there, and some spring water just flowing because they got a little, little thing back there. Yeah, all of this stuff works. But they don't necessarily understand the holistic concept. It's not something that you're going to listen to a podcast, and then somebody shares something in a situation, an exact situation as an example. And then you be like, yeah, I do that. Well, all you got to do is this. And then next thing you know, you start practicing that thing. And then, oh, well, I'm healed from it. No, you're not. You're not healed from it. Separating yourself from a thing and healing from the thing is two totally different things. And so that's the environment that we'll find ourselves in. So we'll withdraw from the situations that we know will trigger us. Oh, yeah, that was a word too. Because at one point in time, we'll set the conditions and we'll tell people, well, that triggers me. Well, if you know it triggers you, why don't you go get some help and stop telling people what triggers you? Right. So it's like all of these things compounded and packed into one, and just kind of served up. And then we say, oh, I'm looking for a relationship. No, you're not. No, you're not.
mhm,
You're not ready for a relationship, because you're going to sink the ship in every boat you get in. If you can't be the captain of the ship, you're going to sink it. And that's ultimately how it is. And it's frustrating. It's mind numbing. And I can hear it in people when they talk sometimes, a lot of times, to be honest with you. And it's like, yeah, I'm good. Okay. That's what's up. I believe that you believe that.
mhm.
I don't believe it, but I believe that you believe that. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's like this is the space that they stay in. And just pay attention, because periodically you're going to see a new word. It's going to be another one. I promise you, it's going to be a new word that shows up, and everybody's going to grab it and put it in their toolkit, and they're going to just start overusing it again. So that's just my thoughts in relation to this.
And your thought went where mine went too, because you said, I know you said you healed, but I don't believe it. So right there, and people do that, but just like everything else, there are people that are trained or who have been taught how to identify certain things in people. When you are a coach or a counselor and stuff like that, you are trained to identify things in people, because that's part of what the not the coaching is now to the future, but the therapy part is the back part to where you are right now. He being healed from something, trauma, something in your past, right? And I think when you have people, I do like that, and this goes back to what I said. I do believe that there are some people out there who can do it. There are some people who are trained to identify and diagnose schizophrenia, to diagnose not misogyny. What's the word you used?
Oh, narcissism.
Narcissism. Yes, that's, you had to be a doctor to diagnose that, right? No,
Well,
it's not a doctor
you
thing.
you have to have the clear understanding of being able to identify the behavior trait, but
Okay.
there is no aid for it. There's
No.
nothing you can do for it. That's the sad part about it. It is
Yeah,
what it is.
except for work on yourself.
Well, I mean, you can't.
But the hard part about, yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's the hard part about. So that means you would have to have, just back to the first part of that, the first question of the night. You know what I mean? It goes back to that. If you're a narcissist, you wouldn't even be able to identify, the issue you have. So you would almost have to have someone who is capable to identify those traits and behaviors to say, hey, look, uh, maybe a little narcissist, brother.
Yeah,
Like, based off of this, how you acting, how you moving, bro, you probably a narcissist.
yeah.
I would tell you, me, I would welcome that where I'm at in my life right now. But I know we ain't on that question, but we just
And
kind
and
of
I'm and
circling
I'm and
around.
I'm not saying that there's nothing you can do for someone
Yeah,
who has that, right? There's
yeah,
absolutely something you can do. The issue is that they can't tell that they are. So
yeah.
what they're believing is that they're right and everybody else is wrong, right? So
True.
that's a whole nother conversation though.
Yeah,
Listen, if you guys have joined us, by all means, make sure you hit that like button and make sure that you share it, because if you have not, you might be shortchanging somebody on some very interesting information. And again, remember, this is all this is all awareness and challenging assumptions. That's all it is. We're not trying to
yeah,
offend anybody, so please don't choose to take offense. Just
yeah.
consider it and listen to what is actually being said. I'm loving what they're saying in the chat, so please, as always, you guys know how we do. Put all of your information, put all of your thoughts in the comments. If you have questions, make sure that you put those in the comments as well. You guys know I would tear a show up just to make sure that we are answering questions. So Nick D said no, because I am not certain we all understand what true healing is. I
Mhm.
agree. His divine appointment said, I believe there are several layers that has to be peeled back. What measures what those layers are? Ish. I can go into more details about that later, but yes, she agrees with what you said. Buzzword, catchphrase, absolutely. Discovery, considering examining your behavior and talk to someone to help you with your blind spots. Nick D said those are the same people who say that you need to accept me as I am, etc. No, no, I do not, and vice versa. Yeah, say it backwards. No, no, absolutely not. Yep, she witnessed that behavior. They need to talk
Last night, SMH.
well, well, that's why I kind of speed past that, because
Yeah.
I was in the room and it was interesting. Um, they need to talk to coach, because he can make a blind man see the issue he needs to work on. You guys are a mess. I love it though. And take their insecurities and call it an attack. Yeah, that actually did
Mhm,
happen. Whole nother conversation. Okay.
mhm,
We're going to kind of dive into this, and we're going to start off with the pathology of growth. And the concern here is that the overuse of healing dilutes its meaning and risks pathologizing normal growth. And just pathologizing just simply means regarding or treating as psychologically unusual or unhealthy. Um, we need to understand that words mean things, like I've been saying before. Words have somewhat of a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or the deepest despair. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men action. Sigmund Freud, you guys should be very, very familiar with who that is, even if, you know, even if you don't know the details behind him, because he was an interesting guy. Okay. A ThriveWorks survey found that 95% of Americans encounter therapy speak in daily life. and nearly 1 in 3 believe that these terms are overused or misused, especially words like trauma, triggered, and healing. So, that being said, my good friend, the question that I have here: when we label every struggle as a need for healing, are we unintentionally turning normal life challenges into diagnosis? And if you don't mind, regardless of what your answer is, just kind of
Mhm.
explain it just a little bit.
Mm. I didn't read that again. Um, that second part is what challenged me. When we label every situation as a need for healing, all right, are we unintentionally turning normal life challenges into diagnosis? In a sense, I in this right now, my short answer, and I'm gonna elaborate more, would be yes. Right off the rip, I'm gonna go with a yes, or at least if we're on the scale, I'm sliding towards yes. Um, we see this all the time at work. I'm going through this, I'm going through that. Oh, you need healing. Some stuff ain't healing. Some stuff you just need to go through. Some stuff you need to get over. Some stuff you need to put some action behind some stuff. There's some stuff that we're healing about, but we haven't taken any steps to go through the healing process. And I think that when you constantly turning everything, this struggle, that struggle, it does become a little bit more normal, and I do believe that it does um unintentionally turn normal life challenges into a diagnosis. And then I guess the good and the bad thing about that is that, in a sense, labeling everything as an issue or as a diagnosis, when you have something as a diagnosis, in my book, when somebody have a diagnosis, then that means they have something. They have a disease, they have something wrong. And now there is a need for healing. And I do believe that a lot of people do need healing in different areas of their life, and that's okay. um it's part of the ebbs and flows of life, I guess. But I don't know why though. I'm thinking about the why with this question. Like, why is it like that? How did we get here? Because it doesn't seem like when I grew up it was like that. It don't seem like every struggle. It's like that's just part of life. You know what I mean? It's not, I don't have a problem. This is just part of life. I don't need to heal from everything. Some things is just how it is. And I do believe that there's a difference between just life and things just being and needing to be healed. But I do believe that we are unintentionally, and more I think about it, turning normal life challenges into diagnosis. And again, the reason why I say that is because if you call something the diagnosis, in my eyes, in my mind, I believe that at some point this person need to be healed from something because of whatever diagnosis it is. So
Sure. I think you play football, right?
I did.
Yeah. I think it's something to be said when you got to go through 2 a day practices in the summer.
Hot brother.
The first one is in the morning, just for you guys who don't know. The first one is
Mhm.
in the morning, and you get out there and you practice. You
That
start
one
off.
ain't that bad though.
That one ain't that bad. It's because it's summertime.
And it's
It's
morning
already
and it's
80
the
plus
first
degrees.
practice.
Right. It's still already in the 80s, right?
Yep.
But you start off by lifting weights. Then you
Mhm.
go to the field and then you practice for however long practice is, about an hour, hour and a half, whatever that looks like. And then ideally, some of us go back to the gym and work out some more. Okay.
Mm.
But then you gotta go take a nap. Some of us go eat because you have to eat. So some of us will go
Gotta
eat,
replenish.
and then you got to take a nap because you need to be refreshed to come back. Then you come back in the afternoon and you repeat that process over again. You either hit the gym before practice or after practice. Because it's so hot, most of us elected for after practice. But you're gonna get that 2 a day workout in too. You're gonna get that 2 a day exercise. You're getting that sun and you're dripping sweat. You're pouring sweat. there's something to be said about that level of competition, going through that level of adversity and building up that level of resiliency so that when you hit the football field and you lose the game, you don't break down. It may hurt, but you have the level of resiliency to know. And here's the thing, you're really hurting because of how hard you practice leading up to the games. Like you felt you were prepared, but you were disappointed in that. But now transition to where we are right now, we're in a society to where everybody gets a trophy. And if everybody gets a trophy, then what's the need for me to compete as hard as I need to compete during practice so I can be in the starting lineup? I don't need to be in the starting lineup. I'm getting a trophy anyway. Whatever
Getting
trophy
trophy.
I get, I'm getting. I'm on the team. I'm good. Mm, yes, there's a problem. There's a problem that we've created in this society to where we're taking the necessary stress out of normal everyday activity. But then on the backside, what we're witnessing is that we have young adults who are struggling with resiliency. So much to the degree that you have to teach classes on resiliency so that they can learn how to implement some of the resiliency techniques in their everyday life. We didn't have resiliency training when we were growing up. We had get out there and get in the dirt. We had get out there and work it out. You get caught by your parents fighting, you better fight. Don't quit. And if you get beat up, you're gonna get beat up. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like that's
Part
where
of
we
it.
came from. And that's why I follow this dude on TikTok. He always talk about Gen X because yeah, we did all of those things. But then on the flip side, when we look at the level of resiliency that we have, I mean, yeah, I would say between Gen X and boomers, those are some of the most resilient people in our society right now.
Mhm.
And it's not something special. It's that we got the stress on the front side, so we didn't get the pain on the back side. But if you prevent the stress on the front side, right? Because, and I don't want to say the why, but I have my own opinions as it pertains to that. But you try to protect your child from everything, cushion your child from everything. Your child go to school, get in trouble. You're going to the school and you're arguing with the teacher instead of trying to understand what your child actually did, right?
Mhm.
And then when your child become an adult, now they have to deal with the ebbs and flow of life because life now have to teach you the lesson that your parent failed to teach you. This is the everyday struggle that we're talking about here. Some people who are in need of healing, I'm just gonna tell you the goddamn truth. You need your behind whip.
Mhm.
That's what it is. You need a good old fashioned backside smacking. That's what it is. Because you didn't get it on this side. You got coddled, you got protected, you got nurtured. And that's another word that we tend to overuse sometimes. I do believe that there is nurturing, right?
Mhm.
But then there's over nurturing as well, right? When they fall, let them get up on their own. You ain't got to run to them because I've sitting there and watched a child one day fall, and the child sat there and wait and see if mama's going to jump up and ran. As soon as mama jumped up and ran, the baby started crying. Like, come on, man. You don't
Mhm.
see the game that's happening right now? So when we look at this, it's like every little bit of struggle, we seem to believe that, oh my gosh, we got to sit down and talk to them and find out what's going on. No, you don't. Let them work it out in their head.
Yep.
Let them figure out within themselves what they did wrong that created the problem that they find themselves in so that they can come up with their own solutions. That's why I think that's where we are right now because that happens, now everything is trauma. Oh, well, you just had a bad breakup in a relationship. Oh, well, that's trauma. It's not a traumatic event. It's
Part of
life.
life.
She don't want you no more. She just don't want you no more, bro.
Mhm.
If he done moved on and found somebody else, listen, daughter, it's all right. It's
Mhm.
not trauma. It's life. It's okay. Can you want to go get some ice cream? Man, go in there. Better go in there and get you a piece of chicken we've been eating right now.
Yeah.
You know what
There
I'm
you
saying?
go.
And
Get to
that's
the
like my
gym.
point. We're creating the problem that we're seeing. Some of these things, like we are the catalyst of the results that we're seeing. And then because the results not happen, we're like, well, what's wrong with them? Really? Go back
Mhm.
and look at how you try to protect them from everything. So, that's just kind of like my take on this, man. And
Ah.
it's obvious, it's clear, it's glaring. So
Mhm.
so yeah,
I
man.
get it. Like you said, some people just need the behind whoop.
Get that
Like
backside smack,
it's
man.
okay to struggle. It's okay to go through stuff. Like them, yeah, you don't need to be healed from everything. Like you said, y'all been together for 3 weeks. You know, trauma. Just so distraught. I don't know what to do. 3 weeks. Like you ain't been through nothing. You 46 years old. Let me stop. In the comments, I'm gonna make it canceled tonight.
Hey man, I
Step on
got it.
nobody's toes.
Let's see. I think I seen a question that was
On nobody's toes tonight.
no, this ain't about toes, man. That's why I said what I said in the beginning. Here we go. I'm on the fence. Being strong-willed, I have a suck it up and move on attitude. At the same time, some people need that extra. Who determines healing or who needs healing?
That kind of goes back to at the beginning, that perspective piece, that personal self perspective. If you're not lining up with what's in your directions, I'll put it like that. You outside of those directions, then I get it. But I think that it comes down to you. I get, being on the fence, being strong willed. I you know, I don't even want to mess with the strong will thing. Um, I don't have a need to be strong-willed, but I get it. I've heard that word my entire life growing up. I definitely get the suck it up piece. 20 years in the military, sucked up a whole bunch of stuff. I definitely get that. I definitely get, being in the military. Coach said one time, being in the military, just seeing a lot of people, moving on to the afterlife and stuff. We tend to go through the grieving process a little bit faster. In the military, 20 years, people come and go. Y'all bond, y'all together for a year. Next thing you know, somebody gone. You know what I mean? So it's a lot easier sometimes to have a suck it up and move on attitude, because it's easier in the moment to deal with, because I don't have to hurt, and I don't have to do all of these things. What coach just gone. He PCS and I ain't gonna see him no more. So I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna cut it off. I ain't gonna say nothing else to him and move on. You know what I mean? But I get at the same time, some people do need that extra. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to who determines healing or who needs it, I think it goes back to the beginning, and I think the individual. However, I do believe that there are people who are trained who can see when people need healing, um, and can identify it as well. And I don't think they always need to be necessarily trained. I think sometimes it can come from experience too.
True,
I'm just gonna say my mom, she over 50. I'm 49, so she's over 50. She birthed me.
true.
Her many years in life, I do believe that even though she may not be school trained, her living her life, her experiences may have allowed her a certain level of perception to be able to see if someone may need healing. But I do think if I had to bring it all around, I would say who determines would be that person.
Yeah, didn't you say your mom was a social worker at one time or
She
something like
was.
that? Right. So
Mhm.
so there's a level of skills that she have as a social worker to where she can
Mhm.
easily see it as well. Um,
Mhm.
I look at this, um, and y'all know me, my mind tends to flip words around and statements and sentences as well. Because the one that stands out to me is not so much as the question, it's the leading to the question. At
Mhm.
the same time, some people need that extra. How do you know? I'll stop there. And I'm not, this is not a question directly at her, right? But this
Mhm.
question, like, how do I know that they need it? What evidence do I have that says that some people need that extra? Because this person behaved that in such a way that said they needed the extra, when maybe that person that needed the extra is probably the person that we were talking about a few minutes ago. I think everybody has within their DNA coded the ability to become resilient, but it requires the stuff to happen on the front side for them to develop a level of resiliency. And I think if we do that, now we'll get to the point of the question. Who determines healing and who needs healing? Life.
Mm.
Life determines healing for that person and who needs healing. Because when that person tries to, interact with society, develop these relationships, and these relationships lack the depth and the breadth and things of that nature. They try to have intimate relationships, but what they find is that once that relationship hit a certain phase, it starts to become friction points because of one reason or the other. And I'm just going to talk about me because I'm not going to talk about anybody else. Hypothetically speaking, let's just say I've been in 5 relationships in the past year, and I'm the common denominator in every last relationship that I've been in, and all of them. At some point, I got to look in the mirror and take ownership of of the things that I've done in that relationship. So that's what I'm saying. Life determines it. I have to recognize that I am 100% participating in the life that I'm living. Once I recognize that, then I'll stop blaming everything and everyone else for the life that I am dealing with at this particular point in time. So it's not that what we're saying is that this person needs to do this and this person needs to do that. And this, no, what we're saying is that life is telling on people every day. In common social media circles, they use this term called crash out. We used to call it having a fit back when we were young,
Mhm.
right? Crash out. What makes a person turn the camera on and start yelling and screaming at the camera because this thing happened? Whatever this thing is, it changes every 6 or 7 months. This has happened. So this thing. One time I seen people crying and yelling because the grandparents aren't keeping the kids so that the parents can go live their life. Are you kidding me right now? This got to be a joke. This has to be a joke. There's
Mhm.
nowhere in the world a full-grown, red-blooded adult is on the camera on social media crying, upset, yelling, and pleading their case because their mother or their father won't keep their kids so they can go and hang out with their friends. Come on, man. So that's what I'm saying. We're not determining it. Life is determining it for that person. Go ahead, huh?
I like the life piece. I have a follow-on question to the life piece.
Hmm.
If life determines when I need healing, do I have to be observant to that? My point is what I'm saying is this. If if something comes to if I can't recognize it, you know what I'm saying? I guess that's the only piece I have. It's not a hesitation, it's more I want to know more.
Sure.
You know, if life happens, but I can identify that this is something. Like I know for me, if X, Y, and Z happens, and I'm like, dang, bro, you need to work on that. The way you came across, what you said was not, in indicative of how a Christian man should be speaking, right? Because I'm aware of that, I can identify that flaw or that space in my life that may need some healing,
Hmm.
but the person who can't see those things, what do you say to that? Because I get that the life happened,
Sure.
I can identify it, but 10 years ago, wouldn't been able to identify it. It's just this is who I am and this is how I am.
Yeah. So to that question, you see something. I'm not inclined to believe that you are not witnessing anything happening in your
Mm,
life.
okay.
You have the relevant evidence to draw a conclusion from that evidence. I think when you mature enough, when it happens to you enough, you'll start considering the other side of the evidence that you have perceptively accepted, right? Because again, remember in the beginning, well, the reason why as a Christian man I responded that way is because you said this.
Hmm.
You did this to me, so I did that. That might be true, but is that the truth? No, I responded that way because it's in me to respond that way. That's the thing.
Mm,
So it's not that you didn't do the thing to me. I still have to own the fact that I responded the way that I did. But if we're in a relationship, we're going to respond to this situation in chronological order, the sequence of events. Let's discuss the sequence of events first. So when now in this discussion, we'll talk about what happened first, then we'll talk about what happened second. But
mm,
make no mistake about it. If I did what happened second, I got to own that.
mm.
And here's the funny part about it. If I don't, the next situation I move into, guess what's still in me? It's still that thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when I say that. Sure, life happens. You have to be, you either have to be in circles to where people have permission to be honest and transparent with you. Because let's just be honest, we got a lot of superficial relationships out there.
Mhm.
People don't want to tell you the truth because they're seeing how you respond to the truth. So what they do is they tell you the version of the truth to where it don't cause a rift between you and I. No, that's not a relationship. A true relationship is where you tell, like, you will take the risk on this relationship getting better. And how do I do that? Because I care enough about you to tell you the truth. And the truth is the thing that I see in you in that particular moment. And I can't call myself a friend if I don't do that. So when we look at life that happens to people, a lot we got to number one, we got to take inventory of ourselves. Everybody has that responsibility to take inventory of ourselves. Look at your life. It's an old phrase, it's an old saying, and we get breadcrumb information all the time. Life doesn't
Mhm.
life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you, come on, y'all know it, put it in the chat. It gives you what? It gives you who you are. That's the thing. So when life now reflects this thing to you, you got to own up to it. When I look at my life, I am the reason why my life is the way it is. Now I know somebody's gonna be like, yeah, but you got systemic this, you got systemic that. Yes, that's true. It's been there from the day that you were born and it still exists now. So why are we still blaming that as the excuse?
Yep.
At some point, you got to move beyond the excuses and create the reality that you really and truly want. So when we look at these things, it's not that we're saying that everybody is a cookie cutter of themselves. It's not what I'm saying. And if that's what you heard, that's because that's what you wanted to hear. We have to recognize that there are things that exist to where even though there are some minor differences within us, and those minor differences really aren't worth talking about as much as we do talk about them. But the likenesses, the principles, the laws, the theories, right? The way that you actually do this, like if you and I, if you came to my house right now
Mhm.
and we got in the driver's seat of our car side by side, I promise you, we'll probably get in the car almost like the same way.
Mhm.
Almost. There may be some people who open the door and turn around and put their booty in first and then sit down, probably because of some type of ailment. But in most
Mhm.
cases, what we'll probably do is just open that door and put that right leg in and then just, jump up in there because we both drive trucks, right?
Yeah.
And just jump right up
Mike
in
Leary
there.
have to jump
There
up
it
in
is.
mine.
Right. We're not the same height. We
Mhm.
don't even have the same frame, right? But the way that we do things are so similar that it's a waste of time to talk about the differences. And that's what we
Mm.
do. We major in the minors. And when we major in the minors, there is no room for the necessary change that we need. Now, I know I've been on my soapbox about this for a second, but I mean,
I
I,
like it.
I think this is important, man. I think it's that important.
Even
Um,
majoring in the minors, even that statement right there is means a lot, because that's what we do a lot of times. We spend a lot of times worried about the little stuff. That stuff ain't it's not that important. Why are we
yeah,
spending so much time on this?
yeah,
Like, yeah, man, I get you on that.
yeah. And Maya, thank you for that question. And again, I wanted to make sure it wasn't directed at you, but it was such a good question. I
Yeah.
know someone else had that question, so that's why I want to answer it in its entirety. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, let's just keep pressing, man, because I had no idea that we were sitting at 48 minutes already. The
Gee,
yeah,
we're only like 2 questions in.
bro, I'm telling you.
Hmm.
The effect of labeling others. Man, this is I don't even know. I don't even know what to say based upon the time. All right, labeling others
Ooh,
with therapeutic terms can hinder genuine growth and foster a
misogynist.
victim and foster a victim mentality. The best years of your life are the ones in which you decide your problems are your own. You realize that you control your own destiny. That came from Mr. Albert Ellis himself.
I like that.
Um, yeah, me too, man. I
I
love
like
it.
that. Ooh, that's
Research
powerful.
shows Research shows that self labeling as a victim versus a survivor significantly impacts resilience and recovery outcomes. Over over pathologizing can reinforce a fixed identity around suffering, hindering personal development. Now, I had something came to my mind, and I just don't want to say it right now. I'm just going to dive into the question. Just going to dive into the question.
Yeah, yeah, my gear started grinding.
Yes, sir.
That first yeah, mm. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just move to the
Yeah,
question.
man. Are we helping or harming others when we diagnose their immaturity as unhealed trauma instead of encouraging responsibility and growth?
We are
Oh.
harming. We are harming others. That's my personal opinion. No hesitation. We harming people. Diagnosed immaturity is unhealed. Some of it, like you said, some of y'all need y'all behind whoop. And who get behind whippings? Immature kids. That's who get behind whippings. So the whole behind whipping and the whole immaturity go hand in hand. You know, like you saying, encouraging responsibility and growth, bro. Look, that ain't how you supposed to be acting. You know what I mean? It might be harsh. You can be direct, however you want to say it to somebody. But like you said, if I'm really your friend, we really have a relationship, it shouldn't be an issue bringing something to someone's attention. And if it's going to cause harm, maybe we ain't like that anyway.
Mm.
I don't want a bunch of people in my life. I don't want to be coddled at 49 years old. I look at it as like, don't treat me like no punk. I'm gonna leave it like that. Like, you think I'm weak or something that you gotta coddle something to me and saying, "Hey, look, your beard jacked up." I'm just using that, or I'll use something more relevant. The way you talk to people is very condescending and you know very egotistical, and you think you know everything. Okay, I would rather you say that than be like, man, how you been talking, brother? You know what I mean? Like, bro, no, look, I'm not 5 years old. I'm not 2 years old. You ain't got to spoon feed me my information. I'm 49. I'm over halfway done. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I don't want to spend an extra 3 minutes with you having a conversation about something that I'm okay with working on. If coaches identified something in me, uh, A, B, C, and D. All right, brother, let's talk about a little bit more if we need to. Let me go back to the drawing board. Let me go back to some self-reflecting. Let me look at the whatever, and then I'm gonna go back and do something. And the way I am, I'm okay with going back to coach. Hey man, look, I'm working on. We had a conversation last week, and about my mouth or whatever, and I'm working on it. I don't got no problem, but that's where I'm at right now. And I think that you're doing a disservice. You're not helping people when you diagnose their immaturity as unhealed trauma. Again, some of it need to go through some stuff. Encourage people and be responsible, man, and let them people grow and do great things. But coddling people and diagnosing their immaturity as unhealed trauma is, to my opinion, is not the way to go.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said, first of all, before I even um
Hmm.
say anything in addition to. But I want to plug it. I plugged it before, but I think it's perfect to plug it now during this conversation. That red book sitting right there, I think
Hmm.
everybody needs to read that red book.
The
That
calling
red
of the
book,
American mind.
The Coddling of the American Mind. You
Yeah.
will now understand why we're saying the things that we're saying. Okay.
Yep.
When we look at immaturity and label it as a trauma or unhealed trauma, that person now gets an additional layer on their identity. So now that they have an additional layer on their identity, it almost like gives them permission to exist in the space of that unhealed trauma. But
Yep.
then, and it's kind of like what we was talking about before, we're using these particular examples intentionally because I want people to understand what it actually does. So if I've been through an event, right? And it's not a traumatic event. I just want
Mhm.
in all cases, I say it that way. In all cases, it's not a traumatic event. If I've been through a bad relationship, breakup, whatever the case may be, sure, I need to take some time to myself and rationalize within myself the things that I learned about myself, right? Regardless of what it looks like. Now, if you was through some type of abuse, essay, whatever, that's totally different. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about you just had a breakup. Y'all had a just argument and all kind of stuff like that. Y'all got to busting up the TV screen, crazy. But I mean, that's is what it is.
Mhm.
But you don't take the necessary time to rationalize with yourself and come to grips and understand and so forth and so on. And you bring that with you. It's like you just keep putting junk in your bag, and you bringing that heavy luggage with you into the next situationship. Because that's what it is. It's not a relationship. It's a situationship at that point. Because now you're asking that person to accept you and that bag at the same time. They didn't ask for the bag, but you brought the bag with you. And I think, like, Nick D said earlier, you accept me for who I am. No, ain't nobody.
What? What you
No.
mean?
And we didn't sign up for this. We seen this movie before. No.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Go back where you came from and take that with you. Don't leave it here.
Yep.
Take it with you.
Yep.
When we do that, and we got to be careful what we say to kids as well, because that's where it's even worse. The words that we speak to kids become a part of their identity as they get older, right? If I if I take that away from you by labeling you and putting you in this box of unhealed trauma, then what ends up happening now is that you don't own the fact that you need to do some work on yourself. And when you don't own the fact that you need to do some work on yourself, you're going to attempt to move forward without the need to do the work because you're accustomed to the label that you've received. Oh, that just, I don't process information like you do. Yeah, you do. Yes, you
You
do.
do.
Everybody
Mhm.
processes information the exact same way. You may have to fight through some of the conversations that you're having in your head, but that's a you issue. That ain't
Mhm.
got nothing to do with the way you process information. So we got to stop doing that, right? We're absolutely harming others when we, quote unquote, diagnose their immaturity as unhealed trauma. That's just my thoughts on that right there.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. And we see it, we talked about social media, so we see it over there all the time. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
in there.
absolutely. And Lisa, please, I appreciate that, but no, I don't have it on. It's not my book. It's on what is
All
it?
the all
Amazon.
of them, Amazon,
It's on
everything.
Amazon. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's move
I
on.
listened to it. I bought the book, and I listened to it. I got mine in my office at work.
Do you? Yeah,
Mhm. Kids be
yeah.
like, "What is that?" Like, yep,
You'll learn a lot.
you will.
Not only will you learn a lot about yourself, you'll also learn a lot about the school system.
Mhm.
I'll leave it
Yep,
at that. That's all.
absolutely.
I'm not going to tell you
100.
any more. I'll leave it at that. Absolutely.
Make you wanna homeschool your kids.
Um, we got time for one more.
Yep.
We got 58 minutes. Can y'all
Dang.
be patient with us? 'Cause, man, we we like literally halfway through it. But I think we'll pause after this because
Okay. Dang.
let's go to the challenge of therapy speak. Okay. Um, as it pertains to the challenge of therapy speak, the rise of therapy speak reflects a cultural shift, but also creates new challenges within itself. So the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. I can't stress this piece enough. We are different species, animals. And I'm using that term loosely. You're different than an animal. You're not an animal. But the difference is that you have the ability to not only alter the way you speak, but you can speak in such a way to where it actually helps you, develops you, and helps others develop others as well. So the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. And I think when we look at certain things, it makes a whole lot of difference. So the um, the popularity of the phrase mental health on Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, now is X, increased by nearly two orders of magnitude between 2012 and 2018, with terms like healing, trauma, and boundaries now commonplace in memes and daily conversations. And I think that speaks volumes. And again, it goes back to what I said previously. I really do believe in some place that somebody is injecting these words into the algorithm and we're just grabbing them and running with them. So, my question to you, sir, is how has the explosion of therapeutic language on social media, and not just social media, because you're a school counselor as well. So, I don't want you to just limit yourself to social media, but how has the explosion of therapeutic language change the way we see ourselves and others?
Before I answer the question, I want to um what was I getting ready to say? Oh, the piece about the algorithm before I even answer. So I do believe that some of this is because of the algorithm itself, right? So if you look, if we have whatever topic we're talking about, in the description, a lot of times we will use certain hashtags and different things like that. If we're like, this may be in the category of mature men or mental health. So we may tag these things. So some of the uptick is because people are wanting the clickbait and wanting, they know that mental health is a big word, so I need to put mental health in my TikTok or in my YouTube, whatever hashtag, so it will get picked up by the algorithm. So I wanted to say that some of that is that piece of it, but it doesn't dilute this question at all. It's just another part of it. So how have the explosion of therapeutic language on our social media changed the way we see ourselves? I think it has, in a sense, it has, I don't know what the right word. I want to use coddle, but I don't want to at the same time. But I think one of the ways it made us see ourselves is that we all need healing all the time. Everybody has an issue. Everybody has a problem, and I need to spend 40 hours a week listening to meditating and slow music. You know what I mean? And lighting incense, and not saying that any of that stuff is wrong, but I think when you constantly hearing, man, you got trauma, man. Yeah, what you just going through, you just need to get healed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to set some boundaries in your life. So when you hearing this stuff constantly, it seems like you jacked up. Like, you got a whole bunch of stuff going on. When in reality, like we said, a lot of this stuff is just life. It's part of the ebbs and flows. It's just that you need to build some resilience in yourself. You need to just sometimes just do better as a person. And that's not to be mean or belittle anybody. We all could stand to work on ourselves in certain areas of our life. None of us walking this earth is perfect. I can name a couple of things that I'm working on currently in my life. Doesn't mean I'm not a good person. It just means that there are some things in my life that need to be healed. But I think with the explosion of all of this stuff on language, I think it has definitely changed the way we see ourselves, and I think for some people, it has caused us to believe that, we have a lot more problems than we normally than that we have a lot more problems, period. Um, and that because I have these problems, back to what you said, it sometimes it gives me a pass to say and act how I want to act. So I think that's how it has changed the way we see ourselves.
Yeah, I do not disagree with any of that. I think based upon the average person mindset, they see themselves as one or two things. They see themselves as the victor in their own life story, or they see themselves as the victim. So, regardless of which
I
perspective,
thought you weren't gonna go there.
well, I'm sorry, I got to, I got to.
Okay.
So regardless of whichever lens I see myself as, that puts me in a position to see you as the other one. And then when I see you as the other one, now I have the title that I'm going to drape around your neck. So if I'm the victim in my own story, then there are certain things to where in the midst of conversations, you might be a narcissist or you're self-centered or you're arrogant or you're whatever that looks like, right? But if I'm the victim, now it's like, oh well, I'm triggered. These are the things that trigger me. I'm a and I'm not saying introversion is a bad thing, but you're not a complete introvert. And if you pay attention in society, that's how people will purport themselves. They will purport themselves as a 100% stark introvert. No one is a 100% nothing. You're not a 100% introvert and you're not a 100% extrovert. Like I tell it to all people all the time. Like people ask me, like, how do you see yourself? Are you an introvert? Yeah, I am an introvert. I like being at home. I like being the comforts of my own home, not dealing with all of the other stuff. But do I like being around people? I absolutely do. But I don't wake up in the morning like, yep, I need to go find 15 people to go hang out with today. That's not me.
Nope.
Hey man, let's go to the club. No, I'm not doing that. Hey, we got some tickets for the symphonic orphan. I'm not doing that either. No. But when I'm at work and I'm standing in front of them students and I'm teaching, it's like I'm having a good time interacting with them and going back and forth and learning about them and what is exciting as they see life through their lens because they're in their 20s. I'm in my 50s. So it's exciting to see to help for them to help me to understand what this world looks like through the life of their lens right now. So I think when we look at the explosion of this therapeutic language, we automatically start diagnosing people who either number one don't need a diagnosis because there's nothing wrong with them, or number two, I gave you a diagnosis because I believe something wrong with you because there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just saying, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me, so it has to be something wrong with you, right? So that's how we view things. And in all actuality, what might be the truth is that I am looking at you through the lens of the immaturity that I have. Therefore, I conclude that everything is wrong with you. No. At some point, recognize that you are fully participating in the life that you're living.
Mm, that was good.
Hey,
That was
man,
good. I liked it.
this conversation is good. I just hate that, man.
And we, dang,
Yeah, we've been
that
going
was a
through.
quick hour.
It went by real fast.
It was a
Listen,
real fast hour.
as always, we like to gets to this bittersweet moment to where we tend to give you, our parting thoughts. And so what we're going to do is transition and give you what we tend to call actionable advice. All right, who
Blow
first?
me up.
All right, there it is.
Boom. All right. So for my actual advice, this one we haven't done in a while, but and just looking at the show topic is healing just a buzzword. Um, First of all, I would recommend going back and rewatching the video and going back and looking at the definition of healing. So my actual advice would just go and get a really good understanding of the word healing and see how that word healing applies to your overall life. If there's something in you that need to be healed, what areas, if there are some things, what are those areas of your life? And once you've identified what these areas of your life that need healing is, formulate a plan to do something about it. I mentioned earlier, I got about three things that I'm working on, well, at least three things that I'm working on. Some people say work on one thing at a time. Some people say you can handle more than one thing. I am on the side that you can do more than one thing at a time. I can focus on not cursing and focus on not raising my voice at the same time because it's both part of my speech and how I communicate with other people. And that's what I mean by that. So again, I would say start off by, if you have something in your life that needs to be healed, first of all, go get you a great understanding of what the healing is. I suggest going back and watching this video because I think that's a really good definition of healing. And then after that, once you identify these things, come up with some sort of plan so you can be healed in these certain different things. So that's my actual advice for this week.
Okay. I get no proceeds from this book, but I think everybody can see that. I think this is a great book to read. You're going to learn a lot as it pertains to behavior, how behavior has affected the long-term effects, not short-term. How some of the things that were taught, some of the things that were um, you know shielded from children, the long-term effects of that. I mean, The book literally says how good intentions and bad ideas are setting up a generation for failure. That by itself should just kind of catch you and make you sit down and say, I really need to read this. I agree with the Uncle Junior. Go back and look at this again. I give you one further than that. Find somebody who you want to ensure that you maintain either maintain a good relationship with or strengthen a relationship with, and send this to them and say, look at this. And can we sit down and talk after this? Because I want us to have that relationship to where we hold each other accountable for the space that we occupy in this relationship. I think far too many times we just exist in relationship and we don't necessarily take responsibility for our actions and behaviors in the space of relationship. Sometimes it's important to get a third party, somebody who understands, what healing looks like, somebody who understands what certain behaviors look like, and somebody who can actually sit down with the both of you and talk. And it doesn't have to be two people, it can just be one person. Maybe you just want to go on a journey on your own and become a better version of yourself because you do realize that there's more out there in your life that you're supposed to be doing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I severely caution against just existing in space and just letting the time go by, right? I heard a long time ago, don't count the time, but make the time count, right? Sometimes we get in the morning, get up in the morning, we go to work and we look at the clock like, man, I got 5 more hours before I can go to lunch. Or I got 8 hours before I can get off. And what I'm gonna do when I get off work? Stop doing that. Like make the time that you exist in any space count, whether it's at work, whether it's in relationship, whether it's sitting in front of a podcast, listening to me and the Uncle Junior on Coach's Corner. Make that time count. I commend everybody who joined us tonight and every bit of information, questions, whatever that you guys put in the chat because you guys are a functional part of these shows and we greatly appreciate you. I want you to know that out loud and not in public. So again, make a plan for yourself. Do something different. Challenge yourself. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Challenge the relationship that you're in order for that relationship to be better. And that is my actual advice for this week. Look at
Good actual advice.
I try. I try to do a little something.
I like
Look
it.
here, man. I enjoyed this conversation.
Me
And yes, ma'am.
too.
And you know what? The request is always already in.
Here we go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
How did it say on my show? Your lips, my command. Right? Yeah.
There you go.
Listen,
There you go.
greatly appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Listen, man, as always, you guys continue doing great and wonderful things and let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else. And we'll see you guys again next week on Coach's Corner.